Gotta shake your titties into the mic.
You gotta
loosen up a little bit.
Loosen up your tits for some podcasting.
Yeah, didn't you hear? She's the Scream Queen because she's got big poops.
Big poops?
Yeah. That makes you the Scream Queen.
Shut up!
Welcome back to Shaken Not Scared. As always, your hosts here, Erick and Vivi. How are you, Vivi?
I am good. How are you this fine evening?
Doing about the same as every other day. Just packed away in a house and never able to leave unless I'm allowed to.
Unless you're allowed to by your wife.
Yes. I'm just kidding.
Nothing to do with the pandemic.
If she needs drink ingredients, that's when I leave the house.
That's the only time you're allowed to leave. Well, I left the other day to the doctor for the first time in like weeks since we're co-workers.
How was that?
It's fine. It's just going to the doctor. But I thought it was funny because we spend like all our time together, legit, since the beginning of the pandemic. Now I work at home too, and you're my coworker, and I leave the house for like 2 hours, and you're texting me that you miss me.
And selfies, just like and me by myself, you in the background, not there.
Are we unhealthy?
Nah, we'll be okay. What I was going to say is that...
about your week?
There's going to be something... Yeah. So, this week, too, my family came over, which was fun. Celebrate my birthday, since it's in the middle of the week, kind of makes it tough, but everyone was here, and my sister was pointing out all the creepy stuff that we have around our house and how we need to do posts about it, because I guess as the listeners, I don't know if they care, but we really do like spooky stuff a lot.
Yeah.
Enough that it's not even Halloween, it's March, and...
We just decorate our house like this.
Tons of skulls, tons of webs. I think your sister wanted a spooky party too, which just we didn't have to change anything because it was already spooky.
She wanted like a witch themed party, and like I didn't have to buy anything. I was able to use all my house decor.
Yeah,
I just put it all in the center of the table.
Yeah, so it's fun. It's good stuff though. Thanks for coming, fam. I love you guys. But yeah, do you want to jump into what we're doing this week? This episode we're going to be talking about Scream, 1996, directed by Wes Craven. Before we dive into that, what is your consuming creepy content of the week?
Well, we've been, as a couple, recently watching Courage the Cowardly Dog.
And why is that?
Because I did watch a couple episodes as a kid, but like I wasn't allowed to watch it because my parents thought it was a bad show. But you reference it 100% of the time in your everyday life.
I do. Yeah.
So I never know what you're talking about, and I guess we had to watch it so I knew what you were talking about.
Yeah, the episodes are fun. It's interesting to like be doing this podcast and be like just watching so many horror movies as we usually do, not just in the show, but to catch all the like references to horror movies in the show.
That's true. You don't catch any of this as a kid. The couple episodes I did watch. It's also funny to see what kids think is scary, and like as an adult, there are some creepy scenes still. For sure,
you're sometimes grossed out by the stuff that pops up. I was telling you the other day, like, what made the creators think like this is a great show for Cartoon Network for kids every Friday?
I don't know.
Because like it's so like self-aware too that some of the scenes where Courage is like screaming or falling or doing something that's like frightening, they just repeat it. They like flash back and forth between him screaming and whatever's happening, and him screaming and whatever's happening. The other day, one of the scenes was just going on endlessly. We're like, okay, so they just
it was
ran
funny.
Out of time.
And watching it as an adult, I'm like, I think this is kind of more like adult cartoons, if I'm totally honest, more than kids. Because kids, I don't think would catch a lot of the jokes.
No, and we talk about Eustace and Muriel and how we're already
act
them.
Like Eustace and Muriel. Yeah, we do.
Not in the Eustace being toxic way, but more like when they're...
We act like an old couple.
Yeah. And Loki acts like Courage.
Oh, 100% of the time.
Who's paying for his internet?
Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I brought up to you. I'm like, I don't think Eustace and Muriel are paying for his internet.
No, but yeah, so what other creepy content you got?
I went into this like black hole this week on YouTube.
What other creepy content you got? That's it. What other creepy content do you have?
Well, I went into this like black hole this week on YouTube. Didn't like really mean to start looking up this stuff. There's like YouTube channels that will explain paranormal stories on like TikTok and things like that. So I was watching one of those. It's like TikTok horror stories. And then it like suggested another video of like collecting haunted dolls as an everyday,
a hobby.
So, a hobby, yes. Because there's like Zach Bagans, whatever, however you say his name, right?
M from And That's Why We Drink says it.
Yes. And he like collects haunted objects and puts them in a museum. And the Warrens are like famous for also having done the same thing. But I guess there's just like day-to-day people who go on eBay searching for haunted dolls. And I did not know this, and I don't know how I ended up here, because one of the things that I hate most in this world is possessed dolls and possessed doll movies. Really, I don't know what it is, what happened in my youth that traumatized me to these things, but I hate them. But somehow I ended up on that YouTube channel.
That just means you have to go for the alternative and start, collecting like haunted chairs and toilets and like sofas.
I like how toilets was one of the top options that you thought of. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because I didn't know that people did this as a hobby, and they take care of like the spirits in these vessels, and they like give whole background stories, and I guess mediums are the ones that interpret the stories. I don't know. I was just watching it and was pretty entertained, even though I hate that stuff.
Yeah, I guess when you think about that, we were talking about this that day, is that you assume that when people are collecting these things, that all the energy and spirits that are in them are typically like perceived as evil, but there are also positive. And
yeah, spirits that have just latched on to a doll because they had the misfortune, but they're not bad spirits.
Yeah, because I guess if the assumption is that everyone who dies comes back as an evil spirit, then like where do the good ones go?
And I guess they're in these dolls that people are selling on eBay. Also, how do you know that they're haunted? What if you're like in the market for a haunted doll?
You gotta use that thermal filter on TikTok. Apparently.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I guess if you don't start having paranormal experiences, you can complain that it wasn't haunted, which is such a weird thing to say.
Start selling it. That's what I was telling you, is how would you even confirm on like eBay or anything like that people are
actually haunted?
For real? Yeah. Do you go and you show up with your little what was that machine that Zach Baggins had in that haunted house show that the guy shows up with like, it's like an electromagnetic.
Yeah, it's EMF reader.
He has a name for it. Remember the electromagnetic fire or something?
Oh, he like had made up his own reader or whatever. Usually it's like electromagnetic reader.
Yeah, but it was like, what does the electromagnetic? It sounded something out of comic books.
Yeah, he's like, I made it myself. Like that. I don't understand. I honestly watch not House Hunters.
Haunted House Hunters.
What is his show called? It's his show about haunted places. I watch it sometimes. I put it on to go to sleep. But he is a ridiculous person.
FYI.
I do put on like creepy stuff to go to sleep.
I meant more like it's boring. That's why she uses to go to sleep.
Well, it is a lot of like, what, did you hear that? Did you feel that?
What? And Zach Baggins like throwing his body at people and saying it's a ghost. I think he has a problem.
Well, he made a whole franchise and money out of it. I would like to go to his museum though, the one in Vegas with the haunted objects.
Yeah, and take the TikTok filter and see if it's true. I'm sure that people do that.
A TED Talk filter.
A TikTok filter. Yeah, he's gonna take the electromagnetic whatever fire and record the dolls all having TED Talks to each other.
The doll's gonna be like, welcome to my TED Talk about
this
possessing
guy's insane.
things.
I'm not even possessed. I'm possessed being here.
He put me here. I was minding my own business somewhere else.
Yeah, but awesome. Well, is that all?
Yeah, what about you? I know I talked about how we're watching Courage, but are you doing anything creepy on
Mostly
your own?
Courage and Attack on Titan. I'm getting further. I'm almost done with season 3. If you guys haven't seen Attack on Titan, it's real good. I'll try to avoid spoilers, but stuff's insane in season 3, and I think season 4 is the last one, right?
Yeah, I've been waiting for you to finish watching it so we could watch it together.
Yeah, what I pointed out to you, I guess this isn't a spoiler, but there's a Titan that literally drags his face across like an entire field that they're like trying to chase him and stop him, to the point where they finally do kill him. It lifts its face off the ground, and its face from all the dragging it did is like ripped off. So it's just like, imagine like your face getting chopped in half. And it's just like what's left, like worn away from the dragon. Like, yeah, it's nasty. So
it is. I remember seeing that scene for the first time and being like, "Oh shit, that's intense."
They're self-aware because the way that they want to kill it is by putting explosives in its mouth, and they're like, "Let's just hope it opens its mouth and it lifts its face right at that moment." And it's like, "Oh, I guess that
it
makes
has
it easy.
no mouth."
So yeah, good stuff. That's mostly all I've got.
What you've been doing? Mm-hmm. You don't research haunted items in your spare time? I
run into them when I'm trying to like get more followers on our Instagram for horror. So follow us on Instagram.
Oh, let's talk about our Instagram.
Oof. You pointed it out. I didn't even notice.
Yeah. Since we started the page for the podcast, I've been following other horror podcasts, and
shout out.
It's been like, very niche interest, like horror, classic movie monsters and things like that is what I've been following. And for some reason, and no shame if you're into this, the algorithm has decided that we're into feet. Because we're on feet Instagram. And again, if that's your jam, that's your business. But I just want to know what in the horror genre of all the things we've been liking led Instagram to that conclusion.
Feet are scary.
Actually, I think that's the opposite for these accounts.
Well, maybe it's horrifying to somebody, and so that's why it comes up. But it is weird. I went on there and I was like, what? No way. And there's just all kinds of feet. Close-up feet, crusty feet. Some of them aren't even like good-looking feet.
And like, again, no shame, but does anyone know how we can fix our algorithm?
TikTok too, though. TikTok wasn't giving us feed stuff, but it's funny because we've had TikTok since the start of this whole quarantine thing, and it's kind of what got us through quarantine. But we started the TikTok for the show, and we get all the stuff that everyone complains about TikTok for. Yes,
it's like once you actually use TikTok, the For You page is actually really curated for your interests. But when you first join, like we did with this podcast account, it's all the dancing videos and thirst traps that everyone complains about. And I'm just like, God, we need to fix this.
Yeah. So we're working on that too. But keep an eye out for both our TikTok and Instagram. We're on Facebook too. Follow us soon.
Yeah, we need to fix this.
Yeah. So do you want to start jumping into our drink that we've got for Scream?
Yeah. So like you mentioned, we're talking about Scream 1996 by Wes Craven. Mm-hmm. We're back in slashers. For this one, you suggested to make like a black and white drink. Classic, groundbreaking.
Yeah, because of Ghostface.
Yeah, because of Ghostface. So I kind of took your advice. I did a Ghostface espresso martini. It's just an espresso martini and add like a little O face with your garnishes.
Riveting.
Does that make you want to drink
Did you make that one up yourself?
Yeah. I'm really phoning it in for this one, I will admit.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So do you want to try it then?
Yeah.
It's in a fancy little glass.
It's a coupe glass. Mm-hmm. Coupe glass? I don't know.
Wow. It's really something.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, coffee's your jam. This is good.
Are you ready for the reveal? It has vodka.
Oh, no.
I was just waiting for you to say you liked it.
That is good, though. You don't taste the vodka, actually.
No, you just taste coffee.
We were just talking about how vodka is one of those alcohols that you just put in anything to make it alcoholic because it has no distinct flavor.
Exactly. But somehow you still hate it.
People who love vodka are going to say otherwise, but
That's
it
true.
Really honestly is just alcohol.
Yeah, what would you rate this drink?
Well, I think it's not fair because I love coffee. Coffee's like number one on my list of everything.
Favorite drinks?
Yeah, so I'd give it a 4. Pretty high.
So if I didn't tell you it had vodka in it, would you have given it a 5?
Actually, vodka had nothing to do with it. 4 regardless.
Okay.
It is really good, though.
It is pretty good. I think I would also give it a 4.
Yeah? What did you like about it? Did you like the vodka taste? It
doesn't taste like vodka. It just tastes like some strong coffee.
Yeah. It looks nice, too, because it looks like if you're into, like, espresso...
It's got the foam
at the top. It's very aesthetic.
I will say that we used our Espresso machine for the coffee, and I think using a good coffee will make the difference in this drink.
True that. When she made the coffee, I kid you not, it was the best smell. You chilled it, too, right? It's cold.
I did. Yeah, it's got to be a chilled drink.
How do you make it?
It's 2 ounces of vodka, half an ounce of Kahlua, half an ounce of simple syrup, and the recipe said for 1 ounce of espresso drink, but I did 2 ounces because I like a strong coffee taste.
I also said to like garnish with coffee beans, right?
It did, but I garnished again with the cinnamon and nutmeg to make the like O on top.
Yeah.
We'll post a picture.
Yeah, it's gonna look fun. So, what is this movie about, according to whatever we're looking at it for?
Well, we are on IMDb.
Great.
And according to it, the movie is Wes Craven's reinvented and revitalized take on the slasher horror genre with this modern horror classic. That's a contradictory sentence.
Modern
classic. Which manages to be funny, clever, and scary as a fright, because it says a fright masked knife maniac.
Oh shit, that's a tongue twister.
Yeah, I was like, I can't read. As a fright masked knife maniac stalks high school students in middle class suburbia. Middle class? They had big ass houses.
Oh, if that's middle class, we're on the fucking floor.
We're dead from how poor we are if that's middle class. Craven is happy to provide both tension and self-parody as the body count mounts, not moans. But the victims aren't always the ones you'd expect.
Amazing.
I had never seen Scream. I knew who the killer was already because
isn't that the worst? As a listener, please send Vivi messages about how that's the worst.
Send me hate mail.
Yeah, about how it sucks to.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I
it.
knew because it's one of those like classics that everyone spoils on the internet.
Yeah, there's already 4 of them too. And Scary Movie, if you've seen Scary Movies.
Oh, I have seen Scary Movie, and it's actually super accurate to this movie, which makes sense now knowing that this is a meta horror and it's kind of a joke on itself. Do you have actual fun facts?
I do have actual fun facts. So I have one that I didn't write down because I wasn't sure if it was like anyone cares because it's kind of shitty. But
is it?
Yeah, so apparently Ghostface's costume was, this isn't one of the ones I wrote down, but apparently Ghostface's costume was supposed to be white and not black hooded.
Oh, I see where this is going.
They changed their mind because they were like, when they were trying to do some like footage tests, they were like, he looks a lot more like a KKK guy than a killer. So they switched to black.
Good call, guys. I think you made the right choice.
Yeah. When I was reading that, I thought it was going to go the route of like a guy in a white cloth hooded suit doesn't really look scary in the night. You can't hide as easily in a white. Mm-hmm. What would you call it? Robe?
Yeah, it's a Halloween costume.
A hooded robe.
Yeah.
So I thought that's where it was going to go, but at the end it was like, no, it's just it alluded too much to Ku Klux Klan. I was like, oh, that's disgusting. So good job, guys. But the real facts I have, in case we want to leave that out, real facts I have is these ones coming from a couple places. Got one from Screen Rant, one from Mental Floss. But from ScreenRant.com, Mask was initially seen as foolish and silly to the point that Bob Weinstein, the producer, was not impressed with the opening scene and almost replaced Wes Craven entirely as the director.
Damn.
From how unimpressed he was. But
I get it because there's that opening scene where he runs across the living room and I'm like, this looks like comical.
It does. This whole movie is comical for sure.
Oh yeah. Which is not what I thought. Okay, even though I knew how this movie was gonna end, I didn't realize how funny it was.
It's really funny. I was trying to put myself in the position of if I was watching this for the first time, is it scary? It's not really scary. There is depressing stuff. It's messed up
for sure.
There's depressing stuff in it for sure, but it's more funny than scary. So they asked him to finish the film and he changed his mind. So good on him for changing his mind. Second fact I've got is mentalfloss.com. They said that, so a combined couple, Drew Barrymore was only on set for a week to film the opening scene.
Nice.
But in comparison, it took them 21 back-to-back nights to film the last 42 minutes of the movie taking place at the party. This movie is 2 hours long, so it took them almost half the movie to record the last.
I mean, the last scene is chaotic as hell.
Sorry, It took them 21 nights to finish the last half of that movie in comparison. But yes, it is chaotic. I can see why.
It's fun.
It's where most of the meat is.
Yeah.
The cast even joked and called it, quote, the longest night in horror history. So, good stuff. Fun. Yeah, the movie's fun. So, as your first time watching it, do you want to start?
So we open on Drew Barrymore, obviously. It's so funny because this movie is obviously made in the 1990s. I don't answer my phone at all, and this girl answers the phone every single time it rings.
Flip-flops between whether she wants to talk to this guy or not so much that I was like, I wrote down, as I was writing down, I was like, okay, so she's afraid and is kind of leave me alone. But then the guy keeps talking and just kind of okay, cool. So she's kind of into him because she's you want to take me out on a date? But then he starts saying more stuff and she's kind of leave me alone, stop calling. But then she's kind of back into it. I'm make up your mind.
Yeah, she's kind of flirting with him, which is, again, I don't even answer the phone. But do you answer and just start flirting with strangers?
I get scam calls where people literally say they're going to call the cops on me and I just hang up.
I've never gotten those.
Mm-hmm. No one's looking for me. It's just all scam. They're if you don't respond to the Social Security office, we're going to send the police.
Oh, yeah, those calls. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I'm nah, it's all right. It's a scam.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So, obviously, we get that question of what's your favorite horror movie? Because the killers are really obsessed with horror movies, as we see throughout the entire film.
All the big names are named.
All big names are dropped, yes.
Throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
Even by the killers, at the end.
Yes.
So, we won't reveal just from the start who the killers are. Spoiler alert. If anyone's ever been upset with our episodes because of spoilers, honestly, these movies have been out for over 30 years. So
yeah,
let's just get over it.
Get on it.
Yeah. But, she's on the phone. What?
I could already hear, because we have friends who don't watch a lot of horror movies, but listen to the pod.
Shout out to Francisco and Brenda.
Yeah, they're always we've never seen the movie you're talking about, but we listen. So I feel like we just put them on blast again.
What I think is crazy is that some of our friends and family have said, no, I've never seen it. We're going to go watch it now that we've heard your episode. I'm no, go watch the movie first and then listen.
For sure. Yeah. We are definitely not doing the best job at summarizing.
No. Yeah, she's on the phone.
So I was going to ask you, actually, because he asked her, What's your favorite horror movie? What's your favorite horror movie?
Oh, that's
This
so
is a
hard.
tough question.
It is tough because it depends on the genre.
It kind of does. Okay, what? Give me your top 3.
Oh, that's even harder. So I gotta narrow the genres down and then the movies. Real fun one, Trick or Treats. I recently saw that.
I showed you Trick or Treat
You
because
showed it
I
to
really
me,
like that
and
movie.
I honestly think it's probably
It's up
number
there?
1. I honestly think it's number 1.
That's awesome.
It's like the first. If you haven't seen Trick or Treat, I think it's because it's a culmination of so many.
Ooh,
different
we should
little
talk about
stories.
that next week.
Oh, I love it. Like I would even get a tattoo of Lil Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's. Oh man, that movie's so fun. I don't even think of it like from a horror, like as a horror movie, as a movie in general. All the like the little stories are fun. I mean, I don't know. Forget the top 3.
If you
Trick or
like,
Treat's great.
if you like fucked up stuff.
Yeah, it is fucked up, but I think it's because it has so many different kinds of stories.
Mm-hmm.
It's got demon stuff, it's got witch stuff, it's got zombie
Werewolf.
stuff, it's got werewolves. Like it's just a huge collection of these little mini stories in it. And then at the end, it kind of ties in why Lil Sam's been in all of it.
Yeah.
What else? I also like The Lost Boys, and then I think 28 Days Later is my favorite zombie movie.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. You know,
What about you?
I'm not going to claim that that's my favorite zombie movie because we haven't seen a lot of the
Others.
the George Romero's, other than Night of the Living Dead. He did quite a few, so want to watch those. I don't know. It changes. And like you said, it depends on the genre. But I love The Conjuring. It is probably, I think, one of the best haunted house films I've seen. Something about Carrie. I think it's one of the first horror movies I watched, and I was like, good for her.
Yeah.
Which is like I feel a genre in itself in horror. Like Midsummer is kind of like a good for her.
The Witch.
The Witch. Oh yeah,
Good
that's
for
a
her.
good. That's a
I
good.
think we saw a
one.
post on Instagram the other day that was like the good for her
Genre.
genre.
Yeah, man, there are so many. I don't even know. Trick or
That's
Treat
why
is
this
one
is
of my
hard.
favorites that I showed you.
You know what we'll do? We'll put it as a post somewhere and just like list
Yeah,
our
maybe
top.
we'll do a mini episode of our top horror films
do a speed
because
run
we're
or something.
like we've deviated quite a bit here.
Yeah, we have. So let's dive into the actual movie we're
Back
talking
to
about.
Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
So she is on the phone with this killer, obviously, and she finally mentions that her boyfriend is actually on his way or whatever.
Which I also thought was weird because he's like, didn't you just say you don't have a boyfriend? And she's
For
like,
real.
I lied, I do. And it's like, see, this is what I'm saying. She's kind of into it because she lied and said she doesn't have a boyfriend. So how are you going to be creeped out by the dude on the phone, but then also be kind of into it and then be creeped out again and then to be like, no, I don't have a boyfriend, so that he's kind of into you still? Is it the like thing of play hard to get? And I guess if someone
You don't
stranger's
even know
calling
who
you,
you're talking to on the phone. That's my thing. It's like I wouldn't have answered. Save myself this whole problem.
Yeah.
Obviously, her and the boyfriend are killed in the beginning of the scene, and they kind of set off the catalyst for the rest of the movie.
That scene is pretty crazy too, though.
It
Just to
is
quickly
crazy and it's
summarize
sad. Yeah, because she's like, "Oh, my boyfriend," and he's like, "Oh, your boyfriend Steve, who I have tied up on the porch," and like
He's tied up on the porch and gets just killed
because
while she's on the phone with him.
this is kind of part of the killer's thing of asking about horror movies. He's like, "I'll give you." It's a game, and I'll give you practice questions. Want to play a game? I wonder if that inspired like Saw or something, because he asks that a lot throughout the movie.
He does.
And it's like the questions are like, "Who's the killer in Halloween?" And she's like, "Michael."
I don't know. She kind of takes forever.
She doesn't want to answer because obviously this has gone in a completely horrible route. But he's like, "Okay, well, here's the real question: Who's the killer in Friday the 13th?" And she's
Shout
like,
out to
Jason.
episode 2.
Yeah. She's like, Jason. And he's like, just kidding. It's Miss Voorhees. And again, easy to forget because it's a whole franchise.
Yeah, she gets it wrong, and Steve gets gutted in the back pretty
In the
crazily.
stomach.
Yeah, his like guts are hanging out, and the rest of this is just crazy. He throws a chair through the back because he's like, "Which door am I at?" This is the last question. Which door am I at? Front or back? And she's like, "I don't know." And then he just kind of throws a chair through the back window. She starts running. He runs after her, and they're in the backyard or something like that. And she sees a car, and she's kind of trying
It's
to
her
like,
parents.
yeah. And she sees a car, starts to try to get to them. Everybody puts up a good fight with Ghostface.
Oh,
though.
man. That's what I want
Everybody.
to talk about. It's like all of the women in this film, they took some classes in self-defense or karate or something.
Somebody literally barrel rolled him. Like,
yeah, I think one of the first attacks, Cindy like swipes him with a leg, and she like skis across the floor like in action movies.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, I wouldn't have survived.
No.
Yeah, kind of similar. Drew Barrymore's character's name is Casey.
Yeah,
Casey.
Steve was the boyfriend. She's got the phone in her hand because she tried to call the cops earlier, and she's getting killed by Ghostface basically.
And her
outside.
parents are like in the house. They realize something's gone wrong and they're trying to call the police and she's on the other line, which,
pretty fun.
what a 90s thing. Because, like, not an issue now.
It's sad, too, because, like, he cuts her throat. And
and then she's right there
scream.
by her parents. That's what's fucked up. Kind of what we mean by this film's not scary, but it's just fucked up.
Yeah, because she's trying to scream, her neck is ripped open, so she's kind of like...
Yeah.
And, like, they can't hear her, and the parents finally find her because they see the mess inside the house, and she's hanging outside.
Literally hanging from a tree.
Like, it's pretty
gruesome.
Scene. Yeah. And then we get the fun stuff. All the kids at school doing their thing, right?
Well, is that the scene? I thought the next scene
The next scene's with Sydney. We get introduced to Sydney and Billy, and they are romantic, and they want to do some over-the-clothes fun action.
Let's talk about his stretch of a story to why he's there. Because he was watching The Exorcist, and they had edited out the good stuff.
It reminded me about our relationship.
If you said The Exorcist reminded me of our relationship, I would be like, did I throw up on you or something?
That's where I thought it was going. I was waiting to see like what his point was. And it's like, it was almost NC-17, but they edited it for TV. And so I'm starting to feel like yours and my relationship was like almost NC-17, and now it's feeling a lot like it's edited
What a
for
long
TV.
way to go.
I was like, what the heck, dude?
What a long way to go for some pussy. Just say why you're there, man.
Yeah. And then they do some overclothes stuff. So next scene is the friends.
Right. There's something I wanted to also point out is that these kids are supposed to be high school kids, and they look like they're fucking 30.
No, the way that Sydney was acting like, oh no, and he's like, I know your underwear rule. They do look old as hell.
They look old as hell, and like, not that we are shaming anyone. Whenever you want to be sexually active, that's your business, but it's kind of hard to believe that when these actors look like way older than teenagers, at least in Nightmare on Elm, Wes Craven's other film. The kids look like kids.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this one, they look like they were looking at late 20s actors to play 15, 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
Maybe they're seniors. Who knows?
I think so, but still. I did not look like that as a senior.
No.
I don't look like that now, and I'm almost 30.
Yeah, it's funny to look back at yourself in college, and you're like, oh my god, it's a child.
Yeah, when you, like... My brother's in high school, so I would have to go to his, like, performances for a band and stuff like that, and then I would go and see the high schoolers, and I'm like, ugh, children.
Yeah.
This is what I looked like at that age.
Yeah. So there's chaos at the high school. So there's chaos at the high school the scene after because Casey's dead, and so it sounds like what I wanted to point out to you was that unlike all the other movies we've seen, at least of this time, like in the 80s, 90s, everybody knows what's going on in the entire town. The media is there, the cops are there, the students are all looking at Sydney and the friends, like what's going on. There's chaos in the neighborhood, and the friends are being questioned because they all were friends with Casey and Steve, and amongst themselves they're kind of like, "Did you do it?" And they're kind of joking about it. They're very shitty.
Yeah.
I guess
when you know that they're the killers.
Yeah, this all makes sense.
It makes sense, but when you don't know, you're like, damn, these are some shitty teenagers.
Yeah, because they're all like joking about getting gutted and things. And like Casey just died. If that's your friend and you're just like joking about your friend getting gutted and like, no, you did it, and no, I did it, and why didn't you do it? Oh, it's because she didn't have sex with you, and like whatever. It's like, yeah, you guys aren't really friends, huh?
At one point, they asked like, how do you even gut someone? And one of the dudes answers, if I asked that question and someone could give me a precise answer, I'd look at them like, what?
Well, his dad's a butcher. You don't know?
That don't mean you should know how to murder people.
Well, don't they say that people who are butchers are more likely to know, or they like study butcher?
So many like investigations, I think, on serial killers where they don't know exactly who it is yet. They're like, they studied medicine or they studied like something to do with meat because they knew how to carve up a human body, essentially.
Yeah. Messed. Yeah. But so
I would like to point out that the principal is really creepy.
He is.
Because like Sydney went in to get questioned, and she knows the police obviously because her mom was brutally murdered a year before, and the principal's like touching her face while she's talking to the cops. And I would turn to the cops and be like, arrest him immediately.
The principal is problematic the entire time. Later, he's like slashing scissors at some kids and expels them. And he's like calling them fuckers and all this stuff. I was like, that couldn't happen today.
No, I get that like he acts suspicious so the audience believes that he could be the killer. Which is
the thing this whole movie. You're not sure who it is at all. So when you pointed that out, I was like, yeah, I guess you would want to make him look weird so you think it's him. But the friends are making tasteless jokes about Casey's death, it's revealed that Sydney's mom was raped and murdered a year ago when Sydney goes home and is watching the TV, and she's kind of just home alone because her dad goes on a trip.
Yeah, her dad has gone on a trip. She's waiting for her friend to come stay the night, and she gets a call from the murderer. And I had a question. Is this voice actor the same as Freddy? They sound very similar.
I read something about who the voice actor was, and it wasn't any of like the cast we see. It's somebody else.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The actor who plays Freddy, is it him?
Maybe. I don't know. I can't confirm or deny, but that's true.
Actually want you to confirm or deny. Could you please?
Let me pause the
Not
recording.
that it's that important.
Let me pause the recording just so it doesn't add up into our like.
No.
So the
but
voice...
he is Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls.
What? Yeah, full circle. Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's not Freddy's voice,
He's not
but
Freddy.
he is a voice actor that they use separately because later it's revealed the killers were using a voice changer. But it was this guy, Robert L. Jackson, who was doing all the over-the-phone stuff. Apparently the cast never met him, so that the cast could like
be creeped out by his voice.
Mm-hmm. So they could genuinely react to him. So yeah, Sydney's talking to the guy on the phone, and he does something similar like he did to Drew Barrymore's character, Casey. And
she also believes it's someone she knows and is messing with her, Randy,
who is later revealed to be like a super horror
movie buff person. There's something I wanted to say about the phone calls though. Is it like, again, since this killer's obsessed with horror movies, is it a call to Black Christmas, the callers coming from inside the house legend?
Probably. I mean, all these movies, if you were to look at them holistically, because I was going to say this is probably another inspiration for the movie When a Stranger Calls. Have you seen that movie? With Camila Bell? Yeah. I think it's When a Stranger Calls, and she's in the house, and it's also a bougie-ass house, and the whole time she's on the phone with the killer, and it's revealed a bunch of stuff. So when you look at these movies, it's kind of hard to see which one, I mean, I guess time tells you which one did it first, but I think Black Christmas is probably the inspiration for this.
Yeah, it's Black Christmas is the 70s.
Mm-hmm. So, and the phone thing at the time is probably the easiest way to be scary, you know? You don't know who's on the other side of the phone. So I think even if they weren't inspired by each other, at the time, phones and later I'll talk about this, the cell phone, like, why are you carrying a cell phone? It's like, dude, everybody carries a cell phone now. But.
It's so funny because there's a scene where the reporter is running out to the car and she's like, give me the cellular! And I was just like, girl, you could just say phone.
Just chucks a razor phone at her?
Out of nowhere from the early 2000s.
Yeah. But he's trying to do something similar, like with Casey, and asks her to play a game, and she's like, I don't watch horror movies because they all play out the same. It's always just some dude with a knife chasing a big-breasted girl who doesn't know how to act. It's insulting. It's insulting, yeah. So it's funny because this movie is super self-aware.
When I looked it up, it was a meta horror movie, and yeah, it's very self-aware.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for the killers to later be like, we studied horror movies because everything just plays out according to the rules. Even Randy's a funny character who's like, he's right behind you, and Ghostface is literally behind him as he's saying it. There's so many funny parts of this movie. As a horror fan, I think it's funny to watch.
It's so good. Like, I did not expect it to be as good as it was. Mm-hmm. Again, we talked earlier about how Cindy's got moves. This is the first time you see those moves because the killer does come out from inside the house. And she fights him off.
She doesn't want... Hold on. So, he comes from inside the house. She fights him off. She fights him off, and she uses the computer to call the police.
Oh my God.
So courage-like. Because the phone's not working, and she can't get a hold of the police through the phone because I think he cuts the line or something.
Which I didn't know you could already do back then. I know it's a thing you can do now.
Call the police through your computer?
Allegedly.
I didn't know you could do that at all.
Really?
Because it shows the screen and it looks like some program I've never seen in my life. I like computers. I'm not like a huge computer buff, but I was like, how the hell did you do that?
I'm pretty sure that there's a way where you could call 911 from a
And the computer was like, I can't call the police, you twit. There's no internet.
With how slow the
Who's
internet...
funding this internet?
I was going to say, with how slow the internet was then, I don't imagine the cops would get there anytime soon.
No, but so she does call the police through the internet. And Ghostface disappears, and Billy pops out.
Billy just shows up, which is like, wow, it's really obvious that Billy's the killer. Yeah,
right at the moment that Ghostface is trying to get through the door, he looks distraught in the window too, and she's like, "What's wrong with you?" And he's like, "Oh, I heard screaming," and so my immediate thought was to jump through the window.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't blame her for being suspicious of him. He
immediately drops the phone from his pocket.
Yeah, and she's like, "What the fuck?"
They're hugging, and she starts to suspect that he did it, and so she runs away. And he's like, "What? No!" and starts screaming at her. She runs out to the front door, and Ghostface's mask is right at the door, but it's one of the cops, Dewey, who is a weird character for sure.
What an unfortunate name as well.
Yeah, I think later it's revealed his name's Dwight, but either name, Dwight and Dewey.
Still
no
not
offense
good.
to Dwights out there. Dewey's probably not the best
Nickname for that. Yeah.
So, but he's holding up the mask, and for some reason, I guess Billy's taken by the cops because they think automatically they think he's the one who did it.
Well, it seems like she did say like it was him because she suspects him.
Mm-hmm. So then the next scenes are all at the police station.
Yeah. They're trying to clear Billy's name. No one can get a hold of Sydney's dad. Very obviously, they're trying to build Sydney's dad up to be one of the suspects of the killings. And we find out that Sydney's best friend, Tatum, interesting name again, is Dewey's sister, because she comes kind of like to pick her up from the police station and takes her home. Then they all go home together.
Yeah, they talk to each other like brother and sisters,
yeah.
too, you know, calling each other's names.
Fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, so it sounds like Sydney at this point is going to stay with Tatum and their family with Dewey there, and Dewey stays the night. And the killer calls their house, and so Tatum calls Sydney over to answer the phone, right?
Her mom is like, Sydney, you have a call, and Tatum's actually like, tell him to leave a message, and Sydney's like, no, I'll go answer it. And it's the killer. Basically saying that a year ago, Sydney blamed the wrong guy for her mother's murder, and now he's like in jail getting the death sentence.
So in Scary Movie, the parody of this movie, I think I hated that I was thinking about that movie the entire time while also thinking about this movie at the same time, because I was thinking the entire time that Dewey, I couldn't remember that Dewey wasn't at the end revealed that he is the killer, because I think in Scary Movie the cop is the killer. No,
not that I remember. In Scary Movie, it is one of the Wayne brothers is the killer.
Oh yes, yeah.
And I don't remember who the other one is, but
or it was one of the sequels or something. But the cop was like the killer or something. But yeah, the whole time I was suspicious of Dewey.
Yeah, the whole time. They kind of make him seem a little suspicious.
Because I had noted that it was kind of.
They make everyone seem suspicious.
Funny that when the killer is talking to Sydney over the phone, and they're knocking on Dewey's door to wake up because he's a cop. Yeah. Your first thought is, let's wake him up because the killer's on the phone. They're knocking on his door. When the killer and Sydney get off the phone, that's when Dewey comes out. So it's kind of like, yeah, he'd come out when he's done with the call.
And I think the movie does that on purpose to make you think that's potentially one of the killer or whatever, one of the suspects.
You always expect it's just one, too.
Yeah, which is what this movie does as well. Switch that up on you. Mm-hmm. I guess school is really important to Wes Craven because he makes all his characters go back to school after something super traumatic has happened. Yeah. And that's what Sydney does. And during this day, like, some of the teenagers are dressing up like the killer and running around the school, which is, like, so shitty.
But tell me that's not what teenagers would do.
Yeah, that's what teenagers would do. And I don't know.
Teenagers are shitty.
Teenagers are shitty.
Just kidding, but not really. But just kidding, though.
No, like, listen, when you're a teenager, you're like, fuck everyone. But then when you're no longer a teenager, you're like, damn, I was shitty.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you'll grow out of it eventually. It's okay.
Hopefully. Some people are still shitty.
Yeah. So, so Sydney's back at school, and there's the reporter that we keep seeing on the news, who later is revealed to have done some sort of story on what had happened the year before with Sydney's mom. Sydney has some bad beef, and this is when it's revealed because they have an argument by the truck that kind of doesn't go in depth until later when Sydney punches her in the face.
Wait, when does she punch her in the face? I thought it was.
She punched her later in the face when something else happened. When did she punch her?
I think she punches her in the face that night.
Yes, because I was like, she sees her at school.
Yeah, the next day, and she's like covering her bruise up with makeup already.
Yeah, because the reporter is writing a book about the mom's murder, and the killer is on death row, which is a guy who's named Cotton. Apparently, the reporter doesn't believe that, although Sydney said he did it because he saw him wearing like the mom's jacket or the dad's jacket with blood. Yeah, the reporter has reason to believe that the killer was not him and it was someone else, and the killer's still on the loose. But Sydney is just really like gung ho that no, that was the man. And at the end, the reporter kind of says something that's like, you don't even believe it yourself, do you? And Sydney's like, bye. Yeah, like, no, fuck off, you know. So she goes about her day, and yes, the school is kind of having this issue where the principal later, like I said, is being a weirdo and has these two kids who had the mask with them, and he's waving these giant scissors. Wes Craven likes his giant knives and giant scissors flashing into the camera.
Yeah, I would say he does.
The principal's really weird, and he's like cutting at the kid's shirt, and he's like, if it was up to me, you guys would be gutted right here, right now. And he's saying all this unnecessary stuff to these kids and expels them. But the reporter is also saying, that people are wearing the ghost face mask. And Sydney goes back with her friends, and they're talking about Billy, and she's like, do you think he's mad at me? And they're like, well, you
accused him of being a murderer, so
I mean, he's gonna be hurt a little bit at least.
Yeah.
And then she runs into Billy right away
because he's been released, because since she received a call the night he was detained, everyone assumes he did not do it. Mm-hmm. And also his phone records were cleared. Which is
also the reason I thought Dewey was in on it. I thought Dewey was in on it, and that's why. Because Dewey later is talking to one of the cops. This is all like side stuff that leads into that long night that we're talking about. But Dewey's talking to one of the cops and talking about the phone records.
And
Dewey's kind of like, how would you go about changing
cloning the phone records?
But yeah, so Sydney is kind of having a rough day because she's back at school. Again, why would you go back to school after all this is going on?
But she has this conversation with Billy, and it's like a weird conversation on both ends. He's basically saying, like, you need to get over your mom's death. It happened like a year ago. And
we haven't even done it because your mom's dead.
And then it's funny because she like walks away mad, but also like she accused him of being a murderer. And like...
But, okay, also at this point, Billy is like, it's been a year since your mom's dead. Like, it's the same thing as, like, what happened to me. My dad and mom got split up, and I got over it, so, like, why aren't you over it? And she's like, what?
Not the same thing,
Not the same thing at all, yeah.
But I think it shows you just how, like, detached he is from reality.
For sure.
Because it's about him. It's not about her, which obviously comes into play later when it's revealed that he's the killer for real. And why he did it.
So he's messed up, and so she goes to the bathroom, and she's sitting there, and she hears these high school... Mean girls, yeah. Talking about how her mom was a whore, and she was sleeping around, and how she kind of deserves all of it. And...
Which, what a small-town way of talking and thinking. Also, I told you this while we were watching it. She, like, hides in the bathroom while people are talking shit about her, and I know that's kind of like a trope in movies. I would not do that.
No, I'd be like, hey,
I'm right here.
You talking shit?
Tell me what you gotta say.
Say it again. Say it in my face.
Yeah.
They wouldn't. Maybe they would.
Maybe they would. And then you can be like, all right, well, fuck you.
Yeah, take it out. But they leave. Sydney's obviously distraught because they're trying to say that, like, maybe Sydney did it too because she's gone insane because her mom is dead.
Yeah. Which
is a shitty way to see other people. But she kind of, like, goes out and starts to hear noise, and the killer's whispering her name.
And he's in one of the stalls.
Mm-hmm. And he chases after her, and she goes running out the door, and, like, he doesn't chase after her.
She dives underneath him, again, with skills that I don't know how the average person would have, but more power to her, I guess.
And so school is canceled, and automatically the kids are like, great, let's have a party.
And then I think this is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie is when the principal is like trying on the ghost face mask and making creepy sounds, and someone's knocking on the door or whatever, and he like runs out and yells like, you fucking psychopaths or something, I don't know, something like that. And then it's like a janitor there, and he's like, who, me? And he's dressed like Freddy Krueger.
You know who that was?
Is it the actual actor?
I was reading the fun facts or whatever. Apparently that's Wes Craven.
That's Wes Craven? Yeah. Oh my god, I love this scene even more now.
Let me confirm that. Hold on. Yeah, so he's got
a Stan Lee cameo situation going on here.
Yeah, he was in every movie, apparently. Yeah. Every Scream movie. There's 4 of them, I think.
I think there's 5.
Is there? Oh man.
Yeah. But he, like, the janitor's dressed like Freddy, and he's like, who, me? He's like, no, not you, Fred. And then he closes it. Again, a very aware movie.
Yeah. And then he gets killed right away.
Yes.
The principal gets killed.
Not the janitor.
No, the janitor lives. Sydney is asking Casey, or Tatum, sorry. She's asking Tatum, like, if I was wrong about what happened with my mom's killer, could the killer still be out there? And Tatum's like, you sound like one of those Wes Carpenter movies.
Yeah.
Everything from here on kind of just like leads to the party.
There is a scene where he works at a video store, and Stu and Billy are basically telling him, come to this party tonight, and he's like, yeah, I'll be there. And he's going off about horror movies.
And all the tropes. And
he literally tells you exactly how this movie is gonna end. He's like, Cindy's dad is a red herring. The killer is Billy. And haven't you ever seen a horror movie? And I would like to think that I'd be this character in movies.
He says screaming, and he's like, it's simple. He's like, there's a formula. Everyone is a suspect, and everyone in the video store turns around like, what?
Yes. And again, I love this scene and this character.
Billy comes out, and he's like, what were you saying about that, Randy?
And then Randy's like, how is he not the killer?
Yeah, it's a really funny scene. So they're all getting ready for the party. Was it at Stu's house? Yeah, right?
I believe so, yes.
So they were getting ready for the party at Stu's house since school's out, and this is when Dewey found out that, the phone record was cleared, and that everything points to the dad. Since it's the anniversary of the wife's death, they're all thinking, like, maybe the dad did it because they can't get a hold of him. So the reporter is also going to the party.
Because she wants to get the story, but also she's kind of into Dewey.
Yeah.
Yeah, this would pretty much be where the bulk of everything else happens in this film.
It's 42 minutes, but it's pretty fast.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the last 42 minutes. It feels like it goes by quickly.
I understand why Scary Movie makes fun of it, because left and right, people are like dead, but then not dead, but then dead, but then not dead, but then they're actually dead, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then suddenly they're not dead again.
Yeah, it's basically, that's it. You summed up the whole movie. We can leave now.
Yeah. The reporter plants a camera at the party because Dewey walks in, and like, Tatum's mad. One of the guys sends her to go get beer in the garage. She dies. She puts up a crazy fight with him.
She also puts up a crazy good fight.
She does. She throws the beers at him. Like, he gets hit in the crotch. She
opens the fridge door on him, and like...
Honestly, I was like, why wouldn't she have survived? She tries to get out through the cat door.
That's the only reason she doesn't survive. Also, who puts a cat door in a garage?
But yeah, that was a really weird placement. I was also going to tell you that I wonder if this is the reason, not this horror movie is obviously probably not the reason, but garage doors now have like a laser sensor so that if you flail in front of it, it just doesn't close. Or it doesn't close down, it doesn't blow up either. So that probably things like this don't happen. Because she gets trapped in the cat door, which is in the garage door. He presses the button to open the door, and she gets her neck smashed into the crevice.
Pretty sad, pretty fucked up way to die. But also, why try to squeeze through a cat door?
Yeah. At this party, Sydney and Billy are gonna have sex.
For some reason, because their relationship has been
toxic as hell,
awful this entire time. And to the point where when they finish, she's like, who did you use your last phone call or whatever that the police let you have? Your only phone call. And he's like, I called my dad. She's like, no, you didn't. I heard the sheriff call your dad. And my thought was like, if you're still suspicious of him, why did you sleep with him?
Also, her way of doing it was kind of like, she alluded back to his Exorcist thing where she's like, I want this to be like my movie. And it's feeling more like, why can't my movie be more like, I forgot what.
A porno
actress.
Or something.
She names it actually, she's like, or more like a porno. And he's like, you serious? So, yeah, it's not...
I will note that I believe this is the first horror film where the main character has sex and doesn't die.
The virgin. The
virgin is no longer the virgin and doesn't die. And I think this was, like, groundbreaking at the time. And also Wes Craven's way of, like...
breaking the
reinventing something.
Yeah, like we said, Randy is kind of like yelling out the tropes the entire time because this movie turns into, when all the girls leave and it sounds like the party's kind of dying down. During the party, Randy was saying like, what do y'all want to watch? And they end up putting Halloween on.
Yes.
And it turns into a Halloween movie watch party.
Well, let's talk about the rules you mentioned because they're there on purpose. The rules in a horror movie, if you want to survive, are never have sex, never drink or do drugs, and never say, I'll be right back. And in the next 40 minutes, Wes Craven just plays with all of these.
Well, and right after that last line that says, never say, I'll be right back, Dewey scares the reporter in the truck and says, hey, I'm going to go do this. And she's
because
like, I'll be right back.
Yes.
A car.
Because they've seen Sydney's dad's car in the area.
Yeah.
They're like sending him to investigate.
So yes, there's a report, the car is there, and she goes with him and says, I'll be right back to the cameraman.
Which makes you think immediately that she's going to die.
Oh, for sure. But she doesn't.
Yes.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
I think we should just not say spoiler alert. At this point, everything's a spoiler.
I know.
Yeah.
If you're watching this, we should have called the show Spoiler Alert.
Yeah.
After Sydney and Billy have had sex, though, and
Randy.
you're like 100% sure that this is the killer. Randy gets a call basically saying that they found out the principal has been killed. So everyone leaves the party to go see where the principal has been killed.
Yeah, because they're like, we need to hurry before the cops find him because we need to see this.
Yeah, which is like morbid.
Yeah, so everyone runs out and Randy's like left alone in the living room watching the movie. And he's still like yelling out tropes at the Halloween movie.
Yeah, because upstairs with Sydney... I want to call her Cindy.
I thought I was just saying Sid because it's easier.
Yeah. I think I also want to call her Cindy because Cindy is Scary Movie.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Her and Billy are done or whatever, and the killer comes in and like stabs Billy.
Yeah, he stabs the shit out of him and
he's
passes
like,
on the bed.
Sydney. And I'm like, when you know that they're the killers, their bad acting is obvious and hilarious.
Yeah. What I thought was funny, so there's a part right from here, Sydney runs out, is getting chased by Ghostface in the house. And I don't know if we pointed it out, but at the beginning of the movie, when she's on the phone with the killer and talking about how she hates horror movies.
She's like, why do they run back into the house and not run outside?
Instead of running out the front door, yep. And what she does immediately is run upstairs and not out the front door. So Ghostface follows her upstairs. She traps herself in one of the rooms and she jumps out a window to kind of like escape. He grabs her and drops her on accident. She falls softly onto a boat.
I don't think you would.
No, I was thinking about that too because I've been on a boat and like you would
hit
the
something.
seats. I mean, you would follow through, but I guess logic aside, she falls onto this like super soft cover from a boat.
Yeah.
Again, middle class boats, giant houses,
quote unquote middle class.
I mean, or do we just not have a good understanding of what middle class
have no
is?
money.
Support us at buymeacoffee.com. But, so yeah, she falls down, and that's when she sees Tatum's dead in the garage door.
Yeah, pretty sad. She is running around screaming. At this point, Dewey and Grace, what's her name?
The reporter?
Gail?
I just kept saying reporter.
The reporter.
Courtney Cox.
Monica from Friends.
Yeah.
They're back. And no, they're not back yet.
No,
right?
so she falls out the window on the boat, she sees Tatum's dead, she finds, what do you call it, the reporter and the cop find the truck, and they... Wait.
No.
Find the camera truck.
She's outside and she sees the truck and she runs to it and she asks for help.
Yeah, and right as that happens, the camera guy is like, wait, there's a camera and a feed, and we see, because that's when he starts to see, like, Ghostface is walking around. Randy's, like, joking and drunk in
He's
the
right
house.
behind you. The killer's right behind you. And Ghostface is right behind him, but walks out the door.
Because he hears Sid screaming outside, so he runs out. And the cameraman's like, wait, there's a 30-second delay on the camera.
After he's already jumped out of the car to go help the other guy and gets his neck
sliced.
So
she starts screaming, freaks out, and right as the scene is happening, there's a lot of like back and forth on the scenes.
There's so much.
Yeah, as this scene is happening, the cop and the reporter find the truck because the kids who are driving away almost run them over. And when they perfectly fall near the car,
fall on top of each other and kiss, then they find the car
right next to them.
Right next to them.
Yeah, and Dewey's like, this is Prescott's car, and so
they run back.
And Sydney is running back into the house, and Stu and Randy are yelling like, was it Stu and Randy? Stu and Randy are yelling at the front door because Sydney's like, what the hell?
Yeah, since the killer has been...
One sec, step back. Stu and Randy are yelling, but after the cameraman gets killed, Sydney's running back and sees Dewey was inside of the house.
No. Okay, so the cameraman gets killed, right? And Sydney's running to another car, Dewey's police car, and the killer's chasing her. And it's a game because she's closing one door, closing another door, and he's opening them because he has the keys.
He's opening the trunk.
He's opening the trunk, and she's fighting him. And she runs to the house, like you said. She said she would never do. She's running to the house. And at this point, is Dewey in the house already? Because he comes out and the gun happens.
Yes, because the reporter goes to the camera truck, to the news truck or whatever, and finds that the cameraman has been killed. Dewey was inside the house looking for the killer at this point. So they ran back while Sydney... Where the hell was Sydney this whole time?
Okay, I remember. We're going to have to start over. Okay, so... Damn, this is like the 10th time we've said this.
Yeah.
The cameraman is killed.
Yes.
And Sydney slams the door and runs out from some kind of secret hole in the van.
Yeah.
At this point, Monica from Friends and Dewey are coming back. And he says, I'm going to run into the house. You go into the car and get a phone and call the sheriff and tell him what's happening. And Sydney has already left the car, so...
That's right, she escaped and she somehow runs back to the house too.
No, she doesn't run back to the house. She runs out into the road because at this point, Monica from Friends gets freaked out.
I was trying to figure out where they cross paths again.
Yes.
So I was like, where the hell was Sydney this whole time?
She gets freaked out. She grabs the keys and she's like trying to drive off the road. The car's covered in blood. And she's
so weird too. She like turns on the windshield wipers because the blood's on the windshield. And she's like, ah! And then the cameraman falls onto the ceiling and she's like, Kenny, no offense, but get the fuck off my windshield.
Which I get her, man.
Throws him into a fence.
Yeah. And she's driving crazy into the road and she almost hits Sydney and she crashes into a tree and you think she's dead, pretty much.
So Sydney
runs back into the house.
The
cop car. That whole scene.
Calls the cops through the car.
Yes. That whole scene with Ghostface having the keys and they're playing like the equivalent of phone tag when you're in a car when someone locks it and you open it and they leave you out there forever. I hate when you do that to me. That happens. Eventually, Ghostface gets in the car and they fight, and she runs into the house.
Yep, she runs into the house as she's running. She sees Dewey's coming out, and he's like,
Sydney?
And he falls.
And he's got a knife in his back.
And he just passes out. So you think Dewey's dead. Or Dewey is dead, because I don't think it's ever
I don't know. I don't know if he's in the sequel.
Dewey passes out. She runs into the house, and as she's trying to run to the house, she's got Dewey's gun, and Stu and Randy come out of nowhere, and Stu is like, Randy did it, and Randy is like, Stu did it, and they're just pointing at each other, and she's just like, fuck you both, and closes the door.
Appropriate response.
And out of nowhere, Billy is at the top of the stairs, and he's like, Sydney, and he's like, and she's like, what? Like, again, this moment where like, who the hell is dead and who is not?
Yeah.
Because Billy's like, oh, and he's like falling down the stairs, and she's like, oh my god, and takes care of him, and he's like, give me the gun, give me the gun.
Got it,
and she's like, they're outside, and he's like, it's okay, I got it, yeah. She takes the gun, opens the door, Randy comes in, the movie buff, and this is immediately when you find out Billy is the bad guy.
Yeah, because he licks the blood off of himself, and he's like, corn syrup and red dye, just like in Carrie.
Yep, and he's like, we all go a little mad sometimes, and he's like,
referencing Psycho.
And shoots Randy in the shoulder.
And it's revealed Randy and Stu are partners in crime. Mm-hmm. They're both the killers.
Yeah, I mean, just to sum it up quickly, because it's a whole scene where they're just talking about the history and why, and is there a motive and whatever. And
he does this lame thing where he's like, there is no motive. That's what makes it scary. But I do have a motive for killing your mom. She slept with my dad, and that's the reason my parents got divorced. It's like,
yeah. So Stu and
so do you have a motive or not?
Stu and Billy are shitty because, yeah, she is asking, like, they try to make it seem like we're just psychotic, and horror movies don't make psychos. Psychos get ideas from horror movies. And that's their whole thing, and Stu is insane.
Which makes sense considering it's a Wes Craven film. He's probably, like, defending his movies.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say that if you're a sane person that watches a horror movie, you're like, I'm gonna go reenact this horror movie.
No, yeah. Yeah, so Sydney's like freaking out. They're standing there, and Stu and Billy are kind of revealing their plan. They bring out Sid's dad. And their plan is to, look, here's the voice changer, and they put it in her dad's pocket. And
they reveal that they've used his phone and copied his phone records somehow. And
which brings back the Dewey stuff. Like,
yeah,
how would you
he was
go
on.
about?
Yeah, exactly. Is that even possible? Is that a fucking thing?
I don't know.
Anyway.
But so they're like, the plan is going to be that the dad did it, killed himself with a gun.
On the anniversary of your mother's death, because he just went crazy.
Yep. And we're going to stab each other, so that looks like we also survived the killing. And so they stab each other, and there's this whole thing of them just stabbing each other. And I feel bad for Stu, because Stu just seems like an idiot. You know what I mean?
I don't feel bad for him, but
I think
I get what you mean.
Shaggy. I think I can't see
He's Shaggy.
I can't see Stu without the actor. He kind of is Shaggy-like in this movie. Is that he's kind of just like,
he just plays whatever, the same character.
Man. Yeah. And he's telling Billy to stop because
Billy's
like,
going
I think
a little over
the top. Stabbing me too much, and he's like, I'm passing out. I'm feeling it hurts and whatever. And things start to go wrong when Stu realizes that the gun is missing.
And it turns out that Monica from Friends has survived, and she has the gun. And they've revealed their whole plan to Sydney, and she's like, how about this for a movie ending? I kill both of you, and I'm the hero. And Sydney's like, I like that ending better. And then Billy's like, well, there's something that you don't know. It's that the safety on the gun is on. And he, like, grabs it and kicks her onto the porch.
Yeah, and she passes out right on top of Dewey's body.
But this gave Sydney the chance to escape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Stu turns around and he's like, uh-oh. We got a problem going on. So then Stu starts to kind of pass out. Billy is freaking out because he's like, what the hell is happening? Mm-hmm. He's like flipping things, and she calls them, gives them a little bit of their own medicine. Stu answers the phone and passes it to her, or passes it to Billy. But I think Stu at this point is like, because she's asking him like, what are you going to do, Stu? Billy's got his story. What's your story? He's like, I don't know. I have peer pressure. He's like, I'm gullible.
Yeah, Stu's not exactly
a bright
character. A bright psychopath.
Billy takes the phone and he's like telling her to reveal herself, and she's kind of playing with him. And Billy gets mad, throws the phone at Stu, and Stu's like, you hit me with the phone, man. That's what I'm saying. I feel bad for Stu because it seems kind of just like he's just doing what Billy told him to do, and he really doesn't have a motive. He's just kind of like, it's probably cool to do.
Like, maybe this is reading too much into this film, but, and again, after having seen Scary Movie, it's revealed in Scary Movie that the reason the killers are working together is because they're gay. And they love each other, right? Mm-hmm. I could kind of get that hint going for Stu and Billy, because then there's this whole scene where they're both stabbing each other, and that's a very like phallic scene.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think of that at all, but I mean, if that's what they were doing, sure, I could see that.
So getting back to Sydney, she's giving them a taste of their own medicine. She's hidden in the closet with her dad, and she's making a lot of noise to make Billy go investigate, and he opens the door, and she stabs him
With an umbrella.
with the end of an umbrella. She's also in full costume. She's put on the Ghostface costume, which is like 10 out of 10. Love the theatrics. Love that you had the time to do that.
Also, what umbrella is that pointy? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I don't have any umbrellas like that, but
Definitely not from the dollar store.
no,
I mean, maybe these houses are huge. Maybe they got fancy umbrellas.
they
in these
got
houses.
weapons in their umbrellas.
But so, okay, the next scene that happens is awesome because Billy gets quote unquote killed with this pointy umbrella.
Actually,
And
they're
Stu-
still kind of fighting.
No, he stabs her. She stabs him and he passes out. So you think he's dead. Because Stu comes out of nowhere and he's like, "You bitch," and like runs after her. And she starts fighting Stu. And she puts up a good fight with Stu. Stu gets knocked down and she gets up and grabs. Okay, so for those of you who are listening, if you grew up before flat screen TVs, these TVs were fucking massive. These TVs,
Yeah.
Have you ever carried those old big
No.
box TVs? Those TVs were impossibly heavy. Like, whose idea was it to put these like 50, 100-pound boxes on
weapons?
top of shelves? Yes. She drops the TV on top of him and gets electrocuted. But
Yes.
that TV, I mean, she didn't even have to electrocute him. The TV's size
Alone
and weight
would've-
on his head would have just killed him. It'd been
Yeah.
fine. Those TVs are heavy as hell. So I thought it was like gruesome.
Yeah, it's pretty gruesome. I actually forgot about that scene.
So hold on. So Stu dies with the TV, and Randy, the movie buff, turns out he's not dead. And so Sid's like, "Oh, you're still alive," and he's like, "Oh, it turns out that it's a good idea that I was a virgin this whole time."
Yeah, hilarious.
And Billy comes out of nowhere and punches him in the face, and turns out Billy's alive again.
Yeah.
And Monica comes and has the gun,
But you don't know that yet because he's fighting with Sydney and
Again.
he's like about to choke her to death. And Monica shoots him and she's like,
we keep saying Monica, like
I know, because her name is like Gail or something. Gail Weathers.
Should we confirm it? It's
It
too late.
is.
It's too late.
It's
now.
too late. No, it's Monica from Friends. It's Courtney Cox. Everyone knows who we're talking about. So she shoots him and she's like, I didn't forget to take the safety off this time, asshole.
And then Randy's like,
They're all standing above him, like looking down on him. And Randy's like, this is the time for one last jump scare where you think the killer's dead, but he's not really dead. And
Billy's
then
like, "Ah!"
Billy wakes up in Sydney fucking execution
Headshots
style. Yeah. And she's like, not in my movie, which I get why people love that line.
what was even better is that not 2 seconds later, another jump scare happens and the dad crashes out of the
Oh,
closet.
yes.
And they all get scared too,
You're like,
but
"Ah!"
it's just the dad.
Oh.
Happy ending, kinda. Because nothing else really happens after this.
No, it's like all the police finally show up at the house and the reporter's doing like her last like segment on the incident.
And credits.
And roll credits. I want to talk about Wes Craven creating probably my favorite final girls because he gave us Nancy and he gave us Sydney.
Yep. This whole time, the movie, he's like, what do you call it? Plugging all of them. They talk a lot about Jamie Lee Curtis. I don't think they name Nancy right off the bat, but they talk about Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. They talk about Psycho,
Carrie.
Exorcist, Carrie. A lot of movies are named on here. I think at some point Billy and Stu say that the horror movies inspired them. They're like, you watch enough horror movies, take enough notes, you know
what happens. And I would say bullshit because if they had seen enough horror movies, they would have known there's a final girl.
Yeah.
They didn't plan for that.
But they didn't plan for Sydney not being a virgin. Oh,
That's
another
true.
thing,
That's what it was. Yeah, she wasn't the virgin, so she wasn't going to survive.
So, overall, what do you think of this movie?
I really like this movie. I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
That's pretty good,
Yeah.
especially since your first watch.
It's the first. Again, I knew who the killers were and stuff, so I feel like it's kind of unfair to say that I've never seen it.
It isn't fair.
And I've seen Scary Movie, and it's basically this movie.
Oh, for sure. And this movie is already funny.
Yeah, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. How about you?
I'd give it 8.5. 8.
I feel like you never get out of the like 7 or 8 range.
Well, we were talking about how people are going to say that we're just too good to these movies because we give everything a positive rating.
We kind of do.
That's what happens when you're a fan.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm a comic book movie
Even
fan.
though it's gonna be bad, you're still gonna like. I think that's the thing about horror movies. Even when they're bad, they're kind of good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is that I'm a comic book movie fan too, and I feel like I wouldn't necessarily say anything is super horrible. I think at the end of the day, it's cool to see this content that you love on screen and enjoyable. Whether it sucks or not, you can find a way to love it. But Scream is a good movie. It is. I saw it as a kid, and I hadn't seen it since. And again, I get confused with Scary Movie and this one. So having seen the original and then like all the flip-flopping and things like that, I imagine in the 90s it was like a hit.
I think it was like really successful.
Yeah.
I think it was like accredited with reinventing the slasher.
Mm-hmm. And for Wes Craven to come back and do all the other ones, I didn't know that he did all of them.
Usually it's funny because in the opening scene, Drew Barrymore's character asks the killer what their favorite movie is, and they're like, Freddy, the guy with the knives. And she's like, oh, all the sequels suck.
Yeah. Apparently Drew Barrymore's character was supposed to be the main character, but she said no to being the main character.
She had a very 90s look.
She did.
But again, all these characters did not look like teenagers.
It's funny to watch all these old movies and see these big name actors.
And we kept saying Monica from Friends because that's what she's freaking known for.
Yeah, Drew Barrymore is huge.
The guy who's the killer, he started in I think it was 90210 type.
Billy?
Yes, but he's in Riverdale right now. He plays one of the teenage characters' dads.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say one of the teenage characters.
He's still playing teenagers.
Oh. Yeah, it makes sense because they all look old in this.
And then Shaggy from
Shaggy's, yeah. He's very Shaggy-like. Maybe that's what inspired them to pick him for Scooby-Doo. I wouldn't pick anybody else. It's one of those characters that I can't see anyone else as Shaggy.
That movie is so well cast.
We should do Scooby-Doo for a fun
a non-horror
episode. Yeah.
horror episode. But do you want to talk about what scared Loki this week?
Yeah. So he wasn't necessarily scared about anything. We kept getting surprised because he'd lift up his head at random stuff and we'd be like, what is he? And you could hear the faintest, the slightest, the crummiest,
tiniest dog bark. Every time the killer was outside the window, they'd have a dog barking in the distance, and he'd shoot up and be like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And then we'd hear a tiny bark on the screen.
Oh. Well, what did you think, Luke? Did it scare you at all?
Nice.
Wow.
Seems
riveting story.
You wanted the dog to be your friend.
He wanted treats from my pocket.
He did keep staring at you through the whole movie.
He's the real Ghostface is sitting on his couch.
But as always, we hope you had a good time here with us. You could follow us anywhere at Shaken Not Scared Pod. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest. And you can send us an email at shakenotscaredpod@gmail.com.
Yeah, you can listen to us on all your favorite podcasting sites: Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher.
Rate, review us, subscribe.
On Apple, specifically, apparently that's the one that helps us the most. You could also find us on Podchaser and review us there.
Yep. And I think that's it.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.